Hi everyone, my name is Jen. I am a colorist by Gina, National Artist, and today I am here to show you a color class. We'll be focusing on cinnamon brown. This is my model. She has faded, her hair color is lacking dimension, and it is lacking luster. We are going to add warm brown tones and richen her up, and we're also going to give her some coppery cinnamony highlights. So I want to show you the formulation I'll be using, but I went to go pull a 4.0 out of my cabinet and I don't have the tube. What do you do in that case? Let me show you. We're going to mix equal parts of 2.0 and 6.0 to get the median color, which would be a 4.0. Then I'm going to also mix 4.77, and the reason why is because I want the brown to be a little bit warmer and not quite as flat as just the neutral alone. I'm going to be using 5 volume because we're depositing only. This is going to be globally as her coverage and also for her low light. Switching over here, I'm going to be using 6.4 and 8.4. The 6.4 was just a little bit too dark for me as far as the color I wanted in the cinnamon tone, so I livened it up and I'm brightening it up with adding a little splash of the 8.4. This formulation will be 3/4 of an ounce to 1/4 of an ounce, and I'll be using 20 volume to really lift and brighten and create that highlight. I want to show you guys the swatches of the hair color that we'll be working with as well. So I'm mixing in the natural series, the 4.0, and I mix the equal parts with the 4.77. That gives us a deep, warm brown, but with a darker base. And I'm also mixing the 6.4 with the splash of the 8.4. So you can see here how those tones will all work well together. Today we are going to be working with a T-parting based on the client's natural part. So I'm going to take from the apex of the head to the back of her ear, section that off, follow the same thing on the other side, and then in the back I'm going to be using it as one large section. I will not be subsectioning that. We're just doing 3 sections. Create a subsection that will be a V parting in the bottom here at her nape, and we're going to be working up from there. I am also going to be leaving some of these tones in her hair because they kind of go with the cinnamon family. So I will not be coloring her hair 100%. I will be adding mostly slices of the 2 colors that I've mixed together. Then this first section here, I'm going to leave this as this large section here. I am not going to be doing any ribbons or chunking or any kind of highlighting. I'm actually going to just create depth with this bottom here and paint it from root to tip. I have created another section. It is a downward facing V, upside down, and we're going to leave this to complement the colors that we're already using. So this section above it will be sliced, that 6.4 mixed with the 8.4, coloring root to tip. I'll now be creating another slice. This will be going in a downward normal V shape. So up towards the temples in this direction. We want a multi-dimensional, multi-tonal look. So the more colors we have, the better. So this is going to be remaining, and also this. Make sure your sections are even on both sides. And I'll be coloring the rest dark. So we're going to get some lightness on the outside, but if you remember, this one under here is the lightness in the middle. So I'll be tapping on the roots and pulling through the ends. I am going to go down here and blend this root with that same color. That way that everything blends together. Just a light tap. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Continuing to move up the head, going to the apex. Now I'm going to take a smaller upside down V, and this is going to be colored the bright highlight, the 6.4. Your angle will decrease as you're going up the head. It's not going to be as deep of a V, as you can see. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a smaller subsection. And we're coloring this entire section with the 6.4 mixed with the splash of the 8.4. Before I forget, let me go tap the roots of this one here. Just light tap. I just want to diffuse it. I really just want a blending. I do not want an opaque coverage, so I will not be pulling through. I will just rely on that color pushing through and blending. This is so that her root isn't so strikingly dark. I do just want it to be blended and diffused. This is going to be a slice almost perpendicular this direction here, following from the back of her ear to the back of her ear. So this is going to be a macro weave. In this last section here, I'm planning to use as the highlight, so I'll show you that in a moment. So I'm going to be taking a deep macro weave here. That drop down, I'm going to let the drop down be the natural color that we're already working with, her existing color. And then the color that I have picked up is going to be that low light. But I am going to just ever so slightly tap that root for blending. And that's going to blend that drop down as well, as you can see. Now that's blended. And then let's pull the rest of this color through the ends. So for this, because I want there to be dimension and I don't want to lose with that secondary color, we've been using her existing color to complement, but I don't want to lose her highlight. So we're going to do the drop down is actually going to be her low light, and then the one that I have picked up will be her highlight. So again, we're going to create a deep macro chunky weave here. The drop down, I'm going to actually mix with that below it. Let's color that first. Tap in that root just ever so slightly to blend and feather. And the last section we have, which is her highlight, the 6.4 mixed with the 8.4. I am going to feather towards the root, so there's no line of demarcation. And the reason why I did a macro weave on this last section, these last two, is because had I done a horizontal slice, it would have been more of a veil, and it would have just veiled over the other work that we've done. So I did want to create dimension in ribbons, which is why at the top last two, I changed how I applied it. Let's move on to around the frame of the face. I'm also going to be doing the same thing, creating diagonal fronts and backs. And we're going to be applying the color, we're going to be doing the root tap, and we're going to be alternating shades, and we're going to be having a little bit of drop down in between as the existing color to complement what we're doing. So this first section here, I am going to do a ribbon of dark, and I will leave this above it as the ribbon of the existing color. So let's apply the bottom here. I'm going to be tapping that root ever so slightly, just a soft tap. I'm not looking for a heavy saturation, just looking for a blending. If you had a client with gray hair, you would want to saturate completely, but my client does not. She wants a diffused look. The section above that I will leave out and tuck that away. And above that, I'm going to be doing an opposite direction, a diagonal back in a downward motion this direction. The first one I did was in this direction. Now I'm changing and pivoting to that direction. And since I already have left underneath here some of that natural color, the existing color, I will just be leaving a tiny little triangle of it behind as well for back here. So do not color that. We're going to be coloring this as a slice with the 6.4 that has a splash of the 8.4 in it. I'm going to continue this pattern up the head alternating until you get perpendicular to her part. You're going to be decreasing your angle as you work up the head, and you will continue to feather and tap those roots without completely saturating for a blended, soft, and diffused look. As I get to the top of her head, I am going to just tap that hairline, her front hairline, her bang area. But you can see here, if I did a slice, it would just veil over the rest and I would lose dimension. So here I'm going to start as you move up the bend of the head to the apex. And now since we're moving our way perpendicular to the part, this is where I will begin to do my macro weaving. The drop down will remain that existing color. We're not going to color any of that. This is going to be our highlight. I do need to tap those roots, don't forget, for blending and dimension. So I'm just going to softly tap that area. Again, we're just looking for a soft, diffused root melt with no hard lines. So here's our highlight coming in. Saturate root to tips. Feather at the roots. I'm going to clean up her part. And let's do a zigzag. That's fun. I haven't done that in a while. So what that's going to do is create variations on both sides. Instead of coming in with a straight line and doing a weave, which most likely you'll get a little bit of a line of demarcation as it grows out, this is a new technique I've been doing where you zigzag on their natural part. And that's going to create some highs and lows on both sides. So that's what that should look like. Let's clip the rest of this out of the way again. So I'm going to reserve this last section. These ups and downs will be her highlights, and the drop down will be the low light. I'm going to leave this color in between. I like that it has that complementary tones to the cinnamon and brown. And in here, I'm going to really just pick up those points of the V that I created, those little diagonals. That's going to be my highlight, and this is going to be my low light. Now the low light, I am going to do a macro weave on that so that I have ribbons instead of a veil. So macro weave that. Tap that root area so you have your blending. Tapping that root area right here is also going to give a base to our highlight that's above it. The last section here is going to be our highlight. And you can see that it's the peaks of those zigzags I created. This will be that highlight. So that's that low light color. Then I'll be taking the highlight color and pulling it through the ends. I decided to diffuse her root area last minute. I was like, wait a minute, that copper color might look a little funny and a little hot on the roots. So that's why I'm taking her other color, the low light, tapping that root and blending ever so slightly so she doesn't get hot roots. And sometimes these are things you do as you're a hairstylist. You're going along and you're like, wait a minute, that's not going to work. And then you change your pattern or you shift your idea and then you move on. This last section, you're going to follow the same techniques. Gonna process at room temperature for 35 minutes. We'll be back to show you her rinsed and styled. Okay guys, let's give a sneak peek on what this looks like smooth without a curl. Just to give you an example of the highlights, the lowlights, the cinnamon color, the warm tones. Also that existing color we left in there to benefit our hair color looks amazing together. Let's see this curled and finished. Hi guys, I'm back and I'm here to show you the final look for our cinnamon brown hair color class. You can see pockets of dimension with that low light running through. She has that shadow root really helping balance the colors that we added and creating dimension. I added that cinnamon brown highlight and also left some existing highlights in there from her previous hair color to really help create a multifaceted, multi-dimensional look with an all-over warm cinnamon brown hair color theme. I would love to see you guys try this technique. Make sure you tag Colors by Gina. I'll be teaching a class in a couple months. Until then, I'll see you next time.